races, the candidates for the Senate primary properly on the tabulator, I'm sorry, not the tabulator, the voting display device, that you actually make your selection on. And so what they had to do is they brought in Dominion to look at the system and make an update and correct the problem. Now, when they did this correction, they argued that the correction they did was quote-unquote de minimis, meaning that it did not need to be recertified. There was a subsequent court case involving this with Judge Amy Tottenberg down there in Georgia, and in that court case, Jack Cobb, who was called as an expert witness, who was subpoenaed to testify in this, he actually deferred his testimony to Eric Coomer because he claimed that he was not a cybersecurity expert. And as such, Eric Coomer testified on behalf of Pro V&V in that case. And it was, in fact, eventually deemed de minimis. Am I right on that?
Actually, the EAC said it was de minimis because of a one-page request from Pro V&V. The judge said it wasn't de minimis and that he failed to test it correctly.
Okay. Now, in doing so, keep in mind that Pro V&V at that time had already looked at these machines twice and never found that problem with the June primary showing up, with the candidate being left off of the marking device. So, I mean, Pro V&V, their credibility, their ability to perform their duty right then and there, twice they looked at that machine and twice they missed that. And then I believe, now don't quote me on this, but I believe, and this is from an article titled The Small World of Voting Machine Certification, and in that article, they say that Pro V&V didn't actually go in and certify that the software on the machines was proper. All that they did was go in and certify that the report from the Secretary of State about the software was in fact accurate.
That's correct. They never actually reproduced the problem, but they tested the software that supposedly fixed the problem. If that makes any sense.
No, it does. It does. All they did. So, and this is where I'm out of my league here. But I believe that there's something about a hash value, and if you put in a hash value, it returns a predetermined hash value. And if it does that, that's correct. And
that's right.
And so all they did was go through the machine, essentially return the hash that the Secretary of State said this is how it's supposed to be, and they said, "Yep, the Secretary of State's right. This is how it's supposed to be." They didn't exactly go in and find the problem and make sure that the problem was not only fixed, but that there were no other ensuing issues. Right. There were no other side effects. And if we go back to Hari Hursty, the guy that before the election, the machines were the devil, and now after the election, he's like, it's the safest ever. These machines are perfectly secure. Nothing happened bad. He never actually said that exactly, but back then, Hari was saying, hey, and so is J. Alex Halderman. Any little software change like this could affect the system in ways that you can't predict.
That's correct. Alex Halderman's declaration is in that folder as well.
Kevin, to the best of your knowledge, before we even get into this, have you gotten an answer or justification for this legally?
No. Nope.
No. Okay. So, Kevin, why don't you just go ahead and explain this? Because this blows my mind, because this is an actual crime.
Yes, a couple of them. The first thing is Secretary of State Raffensperger came out after the election, after everybody was screaming for an audit, and said, look, we're getting an audit done by the only people, the best people in the world who are EAC certified voting system test laboratories. And we're going to send them out across the state to do an audit. And then a couple of weeks later, he said, we got the audit and it was perfect. We knew it would be, and it was. But nobody ever asked for the audit report. And I don't know can you imagine that nobody even cared about that audit report? And look how people care about the Arizona audit report. It's just night and day.
Yep.
Tearing it apart in Arizona. Well, nobody even asked for the audit report. So we looked everywhere, couldn't find it. So we did a FOIA request, and then we actually got the audit report back. But the audit report was actually created 2 days before, or 3 days, if I remember right.
All right. So
before my request. Before they actually handed over the article.
All right. So we're looking here, and this is I mean, this is FOIA documents. Now, of course, this is put into an article format for your sake, but you have the original FOIA documents from the is it Georgia Secretary of State?
That's correct.
Okay, so you have this document in your possession from the Georgia Secretary of State, and in this document, it is dated 7/16/2021. What date was this audit done?
This audit was done, it was January.
I think it was done originally. Wasn't the correspondence November?
December 2nd, 2020.
December 2nd. Okay. So now all of a sudden we have a document that's dated 7/16. When did you do the FOIA request?
I did the FOIA request in July.
In July. So do you think maybe this document was made up as a result of you FOIAing this information?
It's the only possibility.
All right, so let's read what it says. It says, Dear Mr. Barnes, the Secretary of State's office has requested ProV&V perform a field audit of the Dominion voting system in the state of Georgia. The purpose of this field audit is to verify the voting system in the requested location is the certified hardware and software and that no other software is running on the voting system. ProV&V was provided the following locations and asked to select at random samples of the ICP, ICX, and the ICC components to verify. ProV&V will need the following: ICX technician smart card for the election, ICP technician's advisor button. ProV&V will verify that hash values submitted to the state as part of our testing for certification matched the 3 components in the 4 locations provided above. So there's some validity to the hash comment I made earlier, but I'm trying to think of an explanation on the fly right here why this document would be dated July 16th when they're clearly talking about something that was going on late November, early December of 2020.
That's right. What happened is they wrote the memo and it auto-populated the date.
And
whenever they wrote it.
And just to confirm, I see here you have this is the actual metadata for that memo to show that it was in fact created on July 16th, 2021.
That's correct, on Jack Cobb's computer.
Wow. And have you inquired at all to the Secretary of State about this?
No response.
No response.
I've inquired to SLI and the and to ProV&V.
Wow. All right. Is there anything else in this document here, Kevin?
There is with the audit, the actual audit that they did, or said they did. It says 6 counties in the request, the fake request, and then the audit only consisted of 4 counties, and they only tested 18 or 12, depending on how you look at it. If it was 4 counties, it was 12. If it was 6 counties, it was 18, because they only tested 3 machines per county. Only tested 4 or 6 counties so it would be 18 machines at the best case scenario out of 30,000. And that was the statewide.
Wait, say that again?
They only checked or audited, quote unquote, at best, 18 of 30,000 voting machines.
Do we have any idea how those 18 machines were selected?
They were selected at random, supposedly, by the clerks of those counties. I have not been able to get confirmation from any of the clerks. They didn't record the serial numbers. They didn't take pictures. They didn't have seal numbers of the machines. They should have all these things.
So hold on, back that up there. So they did 18 machines out of 30,000. They didn't record the serial numbers for the machines that they actually did. There's no pictures, no evidence. Now, by comparison, and I know we've both looked at this before, when they did the audit report in Maricopa County, ProV&V, was there any differences between the Maricopa audit report and what we saw in Georgia?
Like night and day. They actually really tried in Maricopa, and I guess that's because SLI was doing it right next to them. Actually, SLI did it first, I believe, and ProV&V came back afterwards. So ProV&V was trying to be as professional as possible.
Okay, so I don't think this is going to be part of this episode, but I would really encourage anybody out there listening that doesn't take our word for it on this to pull up the Georgia, the Fulton County ProV&V audit report and look at it next to the ProV&V Maricopa County audit report and tell me if you see any glaring differences in how the machines are tracked and the chain of custody and notating things like serial numbers. This is incredible right here. So, and again, just to show you folks, it says right here in the summary findings, during the field audit, a total of 18 components located among 6 counties were evaluated to verify the software firmware running on each device. 6 counties. But then if you go up here to the letter, they only have 4 counties. They have whatever county Rome is, Douglasville, Dallas, and Marietta. So,
That's correct.
I mean, apparently when ProVNV was allegedly forging this document, they didn't go back to see how many counties they needed to add into this document. Wow.
Or list them.
And you know, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know whether this is a misdemeanor or a felony, but I can't imagine that there's much faith in a FOIA request that is clearly forged. Not only forged, but here's the part that always gets me when I think about this, Kevin. This is a private company that forged this. This isn't the government. This isn't the Secretary of State's office trying to cover their ass. This is a private company trying to cover the Secretary of State's ass. And maybe their own too. I don't know.
Well, it's also the Secretary of State that had fraudulently represented that they had an audit that audited the machines from one side of the state to the other, and that didn't happen.
And
That didn't even happen in ProVNV's version. And then if you notice on the front cover of ProVNV's report, it says field audit report, just to show you that he cannot put forensic audit on any of his papers because he knows better.
And just to be clear to everybody that's out there, if you're not following the Garland Favorito case right now, this audit was clearly awful, to say the least. To say the very
On both
least.
sides of the aisle, nobody can defend it.
No, this is an absolutely terrible audit. Terrible audit. I mean, Garland Favorito, if you go and look at some of the stuff that they're finding, just going through the ballots, and all they did was they went through the machines, 18 machines out of 30,000, didn't track the serial numbers. This is just gross. This is gross negligence right here. That's all there is to this.
This is a prop.
I mean, we need to get on this because they're about to do a quote unquote audit of the machines in Macomb County, Michigan. And I mean, how can you have faith in a company that's lied on a FOIA request?
And in an audit report.
And in the audit report. And has clearly no standard for their audit report, as what we're seeing in Fulton County, no serial numbers, 4 counties on one report, 6 counties on another report, 18 machines out of 30,000, and just going back and certifying that it's what the Secretary of State put on there, not that it's effective, not that it does what it's supposed to do, nothing. Just, hey, yeah, look, this is the same product that Secretary of State said. Oh, man. All right, Kevin, where do you want to go from here?
And that's just only 18 tablets. They didn't look at the EMS servers. They didn't look at the voting machines. They look at 18 tablets.
Wow.
Allegedly. We don't even know that because there are no pictures. But
Right. And you said they scoured through the county. They have 12 employees and 2 contractors.
Well, not really.
Go ahead.
They say they have 12 employees. In fact, they just did a PPP loan for 20 employees, I believe.
They did.
I'm getting into that soon.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. So now let's jump into this is chain of custody best practices. Now, this is a document from the EAC, correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
Okay, and it says here under this point right here, third-party post-election audits and electronic discovery services. Okay, when election systems are being audited or examined by third parties, clear procedures for ensuring the chain of custody is not broken are critical to avoid risks related to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the voting system. Here are some key considerations when contracting with a third party for auditing or electronic discovery services. Ask for credentials. The collection team must be validated to ensure that the collection process is done according to authorized protocols so that all data collected is properly preserved and that no harm is done to the election system or its data. Digital forensics requires specialized skill sets, and the audit team should possess certifications or applicable work experience in this specialty. Industry standard certifications are offered by organizations such as the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists or the SANS Institute. Now, Kevin, let me ask you this. Does ProVNV have any certification from the IACIS?
No.
Really?
No, they don't have a certification from the local college, I'm sure.
Okay, now let me ask you this. we're dealing a lot with the Maricopa audit right now. Does Ben Cotton and Cipher, do they have IACIS certifications?
Yes, they do.
Whoa! So hold on here. So, because we've heard this for the last 10 months, that we should be using an EAC accredited auditor, which there's no such thing.
That's correct.
There's no such thing as an EAC accredited auditor. So when you have all these politicians from a particular, well, we won't get into partisan stuff. But anyways, when you have
it was on the floor of Congress today.
Yes, it was on the floor of Congress today in the congressional hearing over the Arizona audit. They attacked Ben Cotton and Cipher and said that it should have been an EAC auditing team, whatever that was. And look, I've been singing this from the rooftops that ProVNV, SLI, they are not auditors. They are not certified to audit. They are not authorized to audit. There is no EAC certified auditors, period. Now what we're finding from an EAC.gov best practices chain of custody, they're saying right here that if you're a third-party post-election auditor, you should have an IACIS certification, which ProVNV does not have, but Ben Cotton and Cipher do have.
And so does Cyber Ninjas.
And Cyber Ninjas has it. This just keeps getting better and better. So hold on. So best practices, you want to have the IACIS, but who touched the computers first in Maricopa?
That's correct, Brian. ProVNV and SLI compliance touched the computers first, and they didn't even follow the best practices guide. If they had the certification, they could have followed, like preserving taking images of the machines instead of turning them on and copying files directly out of the folders. It taints the evidence.
Okay, so I don't mean to be beating a dead horse here, but this is just something that we have been gaslit for the last 9 or 10 months, and it's one of those things that has irked me because nobody that's a politician that has authority in this, that has a voice in this in front of people of importance, has ever brought this up, that there are no EAC certified auditors. And all they've done is discredit Cyber Ninjas and Cipher in lieu of ProVNV, saying ProVNV should have been the ones doing this. And it turns out they're 180 degrees off on this, a complete reversal here. It's the other way around. Cyber Ninjas and Cipher are qualified to do this. ProVNV is not.
Cipher is extremely qualified. Cipher is called by the military, Department of Defense, when they have a breach. And they have, I've seen Ben Cotton in meetings with the CIA talking about threats. And Gina Haspel, there's the top of the top.
Meanwhile, ProVNV doesn't even have certification going all the way back to 2017. Is there anything else on this document, Kevin? This is explosive right here. This is gonna get chopped into a piece of its own because this is
page 20.
Page 20 of this same document. It gets better.
Yeah, it does.
Oh man, I can't wait. All right, what am I doing here on page 20?
Page 20, you're going to go to the paragraph that starts as when you believe.
Okay, here we go. When you believe the chain of custody may have been broken, it is a best practice to assess the situation completely, gather the facts, and contact your attorneys, EAC labs, and your system manufacturer. A risk assessment should be performed to determine the extent of the potential harm based on your findings and final determination regarding how to proceed. After obtaining legal advice that is safe to do so, wipe the device and reinstall the software and firmware from a trusted source. Examples of potential breaks in chain of custody include transferring the equipment to a vendor or maintenance or repair, to a laboratory for testing, or any other circumstance under which chain of custody cannot be verified.
So there you go. They're telling you that if what happened in Maricopa, assuming that Cyber Ninjas and Cipher were evil and you got the machines back, this is what they tell you to do. Contact your attorney so you can capture all the evidence and then wipe the machine and reinstall it. It doesn't tell you to buy new machines or throw them away. It says wipe them and reinstall them, just like you would your computer
So now this has
and firmware.
this has implications to the user agreement that they have with Karen Fan and what's the guy's name? Strong Egg or whatever his name is, Shadow Egg or whatever that guy, Shadig,
Yeah.
Shadig, the special master in their agreement. So the big thing of their agreement, for those of you that don't know, Karen Fan, the Senate president, made an agreement with the Board of Supervisors out there because, you know, we negotiate subpoenas now. We negotiate lawful subpoenas. Next time a cop knocks on your door to serve you a subpoena, try and negotiate with them and let me know what happens. But anyways, that's besides the fact. So now we're negotiating this subpoena, and the Attorney General levied a $61 million penalty on the Board of Supervisors to be taken from Maricopa's budget because
I think it was $600 million.
Well, it was 10% of the budget, and the whole budget I think was $610 million. So it would have been a $61 million hit for Maricopa County. And I could be wrong. It could be $600 million, but I'm pretty sure that it was 10% of that. But anyways, the rebuttal was that Karen Fan negotiated because she didn't want to pay $2.8 million for new machines in Maricopa because Maricopa's crying that their machines are now tainted and have to be replaced. But you have right here on the EAC's website what to do if you believe that a machine has been tainted. So now you have, it doesn't say buy a new machine. It says, it lists clear as day what to do. And not one of the steps is to buy a new machine. So why are we negotiating on these routers in Maricopa County?
We shouldn't be. There's no reason at all. And in fact, if you notice, one of the conditions or circumstances that they give you as an example that chain of custody may be broken is if it goes to a laboratory for testing. Well, the only laboratory for testing would be an EAC laboratory or a VSTL laboratory. So in all actuality, Pro V&V and SLI compliance broke that chain of custody by doing the audits that they're not qualified to do. Furthermore, they didn't copy the machines. The Cypher never turned the machines on. Cypher opened the machines up.
Whoa. Hang on. Let me do my Bannon impression. Hang on. Little Steve Bannon for you. Hold on. So let's go back here. Pro V&V didn't do their audit on forensic copies. They did it on the actual machines.
They actually just copied the Dominion files from the machine as if you go to my computer or your files and you find the folder that said Dominion, and they copied the Dominion folder and then compared the software to that, supposedly, of the hash value of the original software that should be on there.
All right, I'm going to have to reach out to some of my cyber guys and have them take a look at that, because I know there's baffles and stuff that need to be put on the machines to make sure there's no upload when you do these things, because that's one of the themes that we see with all these machines in across the country, Maricopa County, Antrim County, Mesa County. Even Fulton County now is somebody comes in and does something, whether it's anonymous logins in Antrim County, whether it's Pro V&V doing an audit in Maricopa County, whether it's the Trusted Build in Mesa County or Pro V&V in Fulton County. Am I missing any places that they did this at?
Pretty much everywhere. Pennsylvania. But you're saying that they're transferring back and forth with USB drives, and that completely taints the whole system. Huge no-no.
I mean, if there's one thing I've learned about this is anytime there's a USB involved, don't put it in your computer. Don't put foreign USB drives in your computer that you don't know where they came from. I never realized how big of a threat that was until 2020. So,
Cypher copied it. Cypher never turned the machine on. They imaged the drive, so it's bit for bit exactly a copy of what was in the machine or the servers, and then they make a copy of that copy, and they keep the original copy in the safe, and they work off the copy of the copy, and that way they can prove how it was whenever they got it, and that it wasn't tainted. And if this ever would have gone to court, which it never would have, Cypher could have proven that the machine was untouched.
This is some explosive stuff. I mean, the third party audit guidelines from the EAC that we have been lied to this whole time, and the guidelines were right there how to do it, and it turns out that we were doing it the right way, and they were trying to tell us that we're not.
Then they had already tainted their machines that they said we dated, and they caused what they said we did.
Yeah. Wow. All right, Kevin. What's next up on this this little endeavor?
That's about all I have, except for PPP loan.
Let's just do a run through. Let's summarize what we've seen with ProVNV. So this company goes back to 2011. They lose their EAC accreditation in 2017. They somehow they got a COVID exemption for that because, you know, the 3 years before COVID actually hit that they weren't certified. They couldn't have gotten certified in that time because they were too busy fighting COVID, even though it didn't exist. They have a special relationship with Dominion. Dominion, we now know, pays them directly. We also know that Dominion chose them. And we also know that, according to their website, they verify machines to their customers' satisfaction, not to what the machine actually should be putting out or, you know, doing, not to ensure that it works properly, but rather to the company's satisfaction.
Right. And let me add there that I doubt it would be very good for business if you audited a company's machine and found it to be faulty, and that was your main source of income for your company.
Yeah, I mean, it's seriously, that incentivizes you to keep Dominion happy. They're the ones that are paying you. If you come out and tell Dominion, hey, you know, you failed this certification, Dominion, they can choose who they want to certify their machines. So, I mean, what's to stop Dominion from saying, okay, well, I'm never using you again. I'm going to go to SLI next.
Nothing.
This is not how this should work. I mean,
no, it breaks logic on every level. They shouldn't be paid to test the machines. They shouldn't be paid to audit the machines they tested, and they get rewarded both ways.
Well, and that's the other thing that's a huge issue with me is ProVNV auditing machines that they certified is protecting their own ass, if you will. And now you find out, like, this is just absurd. This is absurd.
They're not qualified. They're not even accredited because they're expired on it by any standard. DAC is covering for them, trying to find excuses, whether it be the COVID or that didn't work, so let's try the they have to be revoked by a vote of the quorum or the commission, which is not true. They were expired, flat out.
This is absolutely absurd.
To prove that VSTLs are expired or can be expired, there's a page on the EAC website that has expired accredited VSTLs.
Oh my goodness.
So if you couldn't be expired and you can only be revoked by vote of the commission, they wouldn't have that page.
So now we've got this company that's paid by the voting company, conflict of interest, that the voting company can pick whoever they want to certify it, conflict of interest. They are being picked to audit their own work, conflict of interest, and then they're going
as much as they want.
Right. There's no limit. There's no discretion. There's no need to disclosure. Right. There's no disclosure. There's no oversight. They can negotiate whatever kind of deals they want. You got a private equity firm that was just given $400 million from UBS Securities a month before the election. This is insanity. You've got ProVNV and Dominion working together in the Georgia case to prove that their update was de minimis, and we saw what happened in Georgia in this last election. You got ProVNV touching the machines in Maricopa County before the actual certified auditors came in. IACIS certified auditors, you know, the ones that the EAC says, the certifications the EAC says you need. This is, Kevin, this is, there's people that are looking into all this stuff. There are senators out there in Arizona. There are people involved in this that don't know this. And Kevin, what you're saying right here and what you're showing me with document from .gov websites, their own websites, this is a scandal.
They couldn't have made it worse.
No. And then you've got them forging FOIA requests for the Secretary of State in Georgia.
That's right.
I thought
they're in cahoots with the Secretary of State. They're in cahoots with Dominion themselves.
I thought that was the worst thing, was the forged FOIA request. It's not. It's not,
No.
and it's not even Pro V&V at this point. It's the ignorance of the elected officials that are hiring this company and turning around and saying that this is the company that should be auditing it because they're certified. That just irks me beyond belief. I
don't think it's ignorance. I wish it was.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right. I really do. I think you're right. Well, we've got a big problem, folks, and the problem is this. Pro V&V is about to put their hands all over Macomb County. And if you've watched Seth Keshel and any of his analysis of the voter rolls and the registrations and all that, he has high hopes about Macomb County, about errors in Macomb County, and says that you absolutely need to look at that county, which is probably why Pro V&V is going in there. And given the track record of what we've seen in Maricopa, Georgia, and Antrim County, most likely they'll get a forensic audit of Macomb County after Pro V&V gets done with their work. They'll push back on this for another month or two, and then they'll reluctantly drag their feet and give us this forensic audit. And when it's all said and done, they'll say everything was fine, nothing to see here, because that's exactly what we saw in Maricopa County.
That's right. Maybe somebody needs to send them a letter saying if Pro V&V touches those machines and does an audit, they may have to replace those machines. But that would be dishonest because we know they don't.
Well, we need to get this out to everybody. You guys need to be calling the legislatures in Michigan and making them watch this video. And if you want, call me up, legislatures. Email me, cannabisconservative@yahoo.com or at protonmail.com. Send me an email, and I will give you all of this documentation straight from your own .gov websites, straight from EAC.gov. I'm blown away. Kevin, excellent.
We'll help any way we can.
Excellent work, man. Excellent work. I thought I was a quote-unquote expert on Pro V&V, and you just put me to shame today. So,
well, you know more than anybody I've ever talked to about it. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I do a lot of work on this, and I know you do equally as much, if not more. Well, clearly more. So, Kevin,
that's a big.
Go ahead.
I said it's a big rabbit hole.
It really is. It really is. And I haven't even gotten into some of the stuff that I have. I'll have to pull up my old hard drive to uncover some of the files that I've found and some of the reports and compare them side by side here. But this is just to show you that they are not qualified to touch a machine. They're not even qualified, in my opinion, to test a machine. So this is something.
There is no doubt.
Yeah, when you want to talk about legislation and things that need to be legislated better, this is one of them. The way that these voting machine companies are chosen, the way that they interact with the voting machine vendors, this is something that needs massive reform. Massive reform.
And even if they were competent, the guidelines that are set by the EAC that all voting machines in the United States have been tested by is from 2005.
Wow.
2005. AOL CDs are still being mailed to your mailbox in 2005.
Well, this is incredible. All right, Kevin, any last words before we jump off of here?
No, sir.
All right, Kevin, excellent work, sir. Thank you so much. Kevin Monclo, you'll see his work at, he does investigative journalism, writes articles for Gateway Pundit. Who else do you write for?
Uncovered UC, National File.
Okay. Well, excellent work. So check out some of his work, because I'll tell you right now, this guy's got some really good stuff. So again, thank you so much, Kevin, and I'll talk to you later, bud.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, and to everybody else out there, stay frosty. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Make the fortune cookie country pay for this.
A whistleblower with Pfizer recently released 4 internal emails. And what I want to know is, why did you write an email saying that you would prefer we do not discuss fetal tissue being used in laboratory tests associated with the vaccine program?
Philip Dormitzer, Vice President, Chief Scientific Officer. These are not low-level people here. Copying Vanessa Gelman, we have an approved answer to this question, the question being about fetal tissue, which Vanessa can probably provide. HEK2932. What does that mean? HEK cells?
Human embryo kidney cells, and it was from experiment 293. From the perspective of corporate affairs, we want to avoid having the information on the fetal cell lines floating out there. We believe that the risk of communicating this right now outweighs any potential benefit that we could see, particularly with general members of the public who may take this information and use it in ways we may not want it out there.
Why would you lie to the American public?
Connect your communications.
I'd like to talk to you right now since I'm with you. Should the American public trust Pfizer at this point, since a lot of whistleblowers have come out, and even we've exposed scientists saying that the antibodies are better than the vaccine itself?
So your antibodies are probably better at that point than the vaccination.
You know, how can the American public trust you guys at this point, Phil? You don't want to give us any comment about that tonight, Phil? Phil, we expose everybody, just so you know, brother. Once again, we ask the questions, they run away. He did say we can contact his communications department, so that's what we'll do now, but that's how it goes. We ask the questions and they run. Who's next?
For decades, Harvey Weinstein was Hollywood's unstoppable movie mogul, the executive with the brains and hefty brawn to produce critically acclaimed films that always seemed to find commercial success. His company Miramax produced some of the most successful films of the past few decades, from The English Patient to Pulp Fiction to The King's Speech. Weinstein and Miramax could seemingly do no wrong as his stature grew to celestial proportions.
I just want to thank my agent, Kevin Uvain, and God, Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey's rule would meet its end, though, in 2017, when dozens of stories emerged of his years of sexual predation. Suddenly, the very same celebrities who worshipped him all turned. The strange thing is, it seems as though those uncovered secrets, well, they weren't so secret after all.
Harvey would talk to me about women that he'd had affairs with. I didn't necessarily believe them.
Everybody knows that's been the case. Everybody has stories.
You heard the rumor that he raped Rose McGowan. You heard that over and over. We've heard that for decades, and nothing was done.
You had to spend about 5 minutes with him to know that he was a bully, he was intimidating. That was his legend.
This is the rise and fall of Harvey Weinstein. A young Harvey Weinstein founded Miramax in 1979 alongside his brother Bob. The production company would eventually prove to be a critically acclaimed cash cow in Hollywood for decades to come. Their first release, though, was a rather inauspicious debut, a softcore porn film titled Goodbye, Emmanuel. Regardless, the two brothers began to earn a reputation in the film industry as savvy and tenacious players who refused to take no for an answer. By the late 1980s, Harvey and Bob had finally hit the jackpot that would send them into the star-studded stratosphere of the Hollywood elites. Buoyed by a credit line from Chase Manhattan, Miramax acquired the rights to 3 films that would become critical and commercial successes: Cinema Paradiso, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and My Left Foot. My Left Foot would end up earning them 2 Academy Awards, including Best Actor for Daniel Day-Lewis. It was their first of many. The foundations for the Miramax empire were set, and Harvey Weinstein's reign had begun. In 1993, Disney acquired their company, bolstering their financial influence. Weinstein would go on to launch the careers of renowned filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino, David O. Russell, and Kevin Smith. Now, of course, they all vehemently disavow Weinstein while pleading their own decades-long ignorance to his many wrongdoings. Regardless, the films that Miramax produced and distributed weren't simply avant-garde cinema meant for pretentious crowds. Films like Good Will Hunting and Life is Beautiful remain timeless classics. Weinstein's triumph as a movie mogul granted him a kind of divinity in Hollywood. And that's not just hyperbole. An analysis of Academy Award speeches found that between 1966 and 2016, Harvey Weinstein was thanked as many times as God.
I would like to thank Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein, who believed in us and made this movie.
Thank you, Harvey Weinstein. Especially Harvey.
I want to thank Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
I want to thank the Mishpucha Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein, Bob Weinstein, God bless them.
His divine status in Hollywood soon allowed Weinstein to navigate his power and influence into the inner circles of the Democratic Party. Already crowned the most powerful man in Hollywood by Time, Weinstein, according to Insider magazine, soon became one of the most powerful figures in Democratic politics, even with a decades-long reputation for inappropriate behavior toward women. Weinstein's political influence wasn't just founded on his personal donations. He flourished as a Democratic power broker. His profound ability to fundraise millions upon millions of dollars in the film industry proved invaluable in politics for the likes of Bill and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. As the most powerful man in Hollywood, he could call upon the industry coffers and enlist virtually any and all celebrities for whatever political cause he deemed necessary. The scope of Weinstein's influence and connections can't be understated. Just a year before the scandal broke, Malia Obama, the daughter of the president, interned at the Weinstein Company. Even the very piece that broke the Weinstein scandal wide open described him unabashedly as a liberal lion who hosted a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton in his Manhattan home and who helped endow a faculty chair at Rutgers University in Gloria Steinem's name. Weinstein often acted with impunity at these events and had even physically assaulted actor Nathan Lane at a Hillary Clinton fundraiser in front of a number of guests, including Clinton herself.
He came backstage and like Tony Soprano and was screaming, you know, you got to cut this, you got to cut that. I don't understand this. This sucks. And he started to push me into a corner and he's screaming at me and it crescendoed with, I'll ruin you. He said, I'll ruin you. And I said, you can't hurt me. I don't have a film career.
Weinstein's reputation in the Democratic Party reached its zenith when Harvard's Hutchins Center for African American Research awarded him the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal for his cultural activism, alongside Oprah Winfrey and the late Maya Angelou. The award is considered the highest honor for outstanding contributions to African and African American culture. Weinstein's ascension to the Hollywood pantheon for almost half a century would abruptly reverse course in the fall of 2017. Journalist Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey wrote an extensive story in the New York Times that provided a detailed account of Weinstein's sexual predation over the course of decades. Now, that story would prove a major turning point for Weinstein's reign and would bring the Me Too movement to the national stage.
One question that we've pursued from the beginning is how did this producer manage to rack up 40 years of allegations?
Nobody was immune from sexual harassment. Even the most famous, shiny women and celebrities, including people like Ashley Judd and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Weinstein somehow amassed 40 years of sexual misconduct allegations with not so much as a blip on the Hollywood or Democratic Party radar. Perhaps more disturbing, though, is that Weinstein's perversions were protected by a cabal of feminist lawyers, including Lisa Bloom, daughter of Gloria Allred, who, according to Kantor and Twohey, were in the business of silencing women and helping Harvey Weinstein.
There are famous feminist lawyers who, it turns out, were in the business of silencing women and even helping Harvey Weinstein.
Lisa Bloom, who had previously represented women who claimed to have been sexually assaulted by Bill O'Reilly and Donald Trump, was reportedly instrumental in planting stories in the media to ruin the reputations of Weinstein's many accusers. Funny enough, Lisa Bloom's mother, Gloria Allred, would end up representing many of Harvey Weinstein's alleged victims. Shortly after Cantor and Tuohy's piece in the New York Times, a subsequent piece in the New Yorker by Ronan Farrow opened the floodgates on Weinstein's depravity. 13 women came forward to tell Farrow that the producer had sexually harassed or assaulted them. The details were harrowing and included allegations of rape.
Because you're a Hillary supporter.
Yeah, I am a Hillary supporter, and they know that. You know, we have all types. My mom started out for Donald Trump. She's turned to Hillary.
Harvey is supporting
And you have raised money as well.
Clinton. Yes, you've raised money.
I have raised money.
It should come as no surprise then that Weinstein immediately reached out to his good friend Hillary Clinton in an attempt to kill Ronan Farrow's damning piece before it hit the presses, according to The Insider. In fact, Hillary Clinton's publicist, Nick Merrill, had contacted Farrow in hopes of halting the publication of his piece, stating that the story was a concern for us, according to The Insider. Farrow, of course, refused. Now risking tremendous political fallout, Clinton immediately distanced herself from Weinstein and condemned his actions, while also promising to donate Weinstein's campaign contributions from her presidential bid to charity.
I was shocked and appalled because I've known him through politics, as many Democrats have.
Within days of the damning stories in the New Yorker and the New York Times, Weinstein was expelled from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. 6 months later, the Weinstein Company would be forced to file for bankruptcy. Cantor, Tuohy, and Farrow would all go on to receive the Pulitzer Prize for Public Service in 2018. Weinstein, on the other hand, was finished. The reigning king of Hollywood was now met with equal disdain and distance from the very people who once cared